triumvirate that took down the Soviet Union. But we have never seen a president dominate a G7 conference, and not dominate, but lead a G7 conference summit, drive the agenda, get results like we saw President Trump do this weekend. And it was absolutely disgusting what the mainstream media is doing. Look at Drudge Report. All smiles. How Macron tamed the Donald. The Emmanuel Macron approach to Donald Trump. Biarritz G7 summit showed approach of the French president to his elder counterpart. Oh, they're all showing that Macron led the G7 summit. This was all Macron. Well, granted, he was the host. It said all eyes were on Donald Trump during his G7 summit stay in the French resort town, Biarritz. But no one kept closer tabs on the mercurial, America first, in quotes, president than Emmanuel Macron. Seriously? And Drudge, who, since he took up, his new boyfriend is a hard leftist, so now Drudge is a hard leftist as well, and says, all smiles, how Macron tamed the Donald. Macron didn't tame the Donald. Anybody that saw that joint press conference today would have instantly known that President Trump was the one that was driving the agenda. Macron said 157,000 words to say, 3 sentences worth of thought. The guy's he's a flannel mouth. Even the announcer, the interpreter, you could tell, trying to summarize his comments, and he just kept talking and talking and talking and saying nothing, as though if he said a lot of words, it means he did a lot of things this week. He was a great host. I understand they had some fabulous dinners. Melania enjoyed a nice glass of French wine. The president, of course, doesn't drink. Yeah, but he has spent a lifetime around people who do, heavily. You think he didn't pick up a thing or two during those parties? So Macron was a great host. France is a lovely country. When they're not acting like surrender monkeys and asking us to save their asses from bad guys, it's not a bad place. Unfortunately, it's getting overrun with bullwinkles. There's literally merit in the street, and Notre Dame is burning down, and it's not that great a place anymore. But still, France is a nice place to travel, especially if you're a G7 participant and you get to go and live the high life. Beautiful. So then the president gets a chance to speak. And what are the questions? And he knew one of them. And it was great because a couple times, I didn't call on you. You, behind her. Yeah, that's what I mean. And he lets somebody that doesn't usually get called on speak. And then he points down to a CNN reporter. And he says, yeah, here we go. And she comes in, President Trump, next year you're going to be the host of the G7, and word is that you want to hold it at the rail. Can you assure the American public that you're not looking to profit off the presidency? And he said, look, I am losing $3 to $5 billion between, I used to get a lot of money to give speeches, and now I give them for free, and that's good. But I used to do a lot of deals. The deals I haven't done, I've lost $3 to $5 billion being president. And I don't care because the deals I'm doing now are for the country. And that's the way it should be. I got to give him credit for not saying, and I'm not even getting paid to do this. I've donated every penny of my salary. Oh, but your Secret Service detail when you go golfing. And yeah, how concerned were they about Secret Service detail costs when their false messiah, Obama, was golfing, huh? How many times during the 8-year Obama reign of error did you hear any mention at all of Secret Service expenses? Or how about travel expenses? When Mooch took one of the planes with the girls and he took another one and went someplace else on the same weekend, how many times did you hear about that? How many times did you hear about the unbelievable, Mooch lived like Marie Antoinette. Mooch was totally, he would fly here, he would fly there, he would fly everywhere. And he would say, let them eat cake. Marie Antoinette, by the way, never said that. But I bet you Mike did. It's just ridiculous. And then the last question. Climate change is real and you are not. What are you doing about climate change? And, just one of those stupid moronic questions because, look, yes, climate changes. That's why it's called climate. What is climate? Climate is an aggregation of what we like to call weather. Weather changes. In fact, it changes so much, there's an entire TV network dedicated to it. Oh, and by the way, the CEO of that network, which is called the Weather Channel, he has come out and said this whole climate change thing is BS. When I was a boy in the 70s, it was global cooling, and we had a penguin on the cover of Time magazine. The penguin was shivering, and the headline said, "The coming ice age." And then that didn't happen, and they figured, global warming. We'll say the same exact stuff, except we'll say global warming instead of global cooling. They won't notice. They won't notice. And then, for the last 21 years, we've had exactly 0.00 degree change in temperature. No global cooling, no global warming, climate change. Well, guess what? Climate does change. And it varies in lockstep with what? With solar activity. The same weather patterns we're seeing here on Earth, Mars is seeing. I don't think there are any SUVs on Mars. Although I'd be happy to send all the climate change scammers on a one-way ticket so they can find out for themselves. It's absolutely, all it is a way to rob from the rich, give a little to the poor, and keep most for themselves. That's all this is. It's just a way for them to monetize the public treasury. And they talk about President Trump profiting off the presidency. Obama just bought a $15 million Martha's Vineyard house. Where did that money come from? Iran has no more money because Obama just bought a $15 million Martha's Vineyard house. You don't think he got a kickback? That book deal? Who gets a $60 million advance for a book that might sell $1 million worth of copies? Because again, what they do, all it is, it's a big pool of money. And all they do, book publisher gives the book author, typically doesn't write the book, a big advance. And then to cover that advance, there are all these bulk orders of the book. And who are the bulk orders from? The author's campaign, a non-government organization, a foreign government. How do you funnel foreign money into a U.S. politician's pocket? A book deal. Just like with Planned Parenthood, the perfect cartoon to describe what the Planned Parenthood scam is a donkey unloading a hand truck loaded with bags of cash into the federal government or into the DNC and then out to the politician. So it goes from the federal government to Planned Parenthood into the DNC. Federal government gives Planned Parenthood $500 million, $500 million every year, and then a significant chunk of that goes to the DNC and Democrat candidates. It would be illegal for the Democrat National Committee to get money directly from the federal government, so they do it through Planned Parenthood. It's all a money laundering operation. Book deals, Planned Parenthood, other NGOs. It's all money laundering. It's taking public money and putting it into private pockets. And it's not President Trump that is doing that. So he wouldn't, he walked off. He dismissed the climate change question. And he said, thanks, everybody. And of course, the reporter, it was very interesting to see the Asian reporters and to see the European reporters. They would ask a question, and then they would shut up, and they would actually let the president answer it. And then they didn't hound him after they answered the question. They were very appreciative of being called on, and they were very appreciative to have gotten their question answered. Not the American reporters. They're hectoring him. They're asking loaded questions that aren't questions at all. They give speeches and then try for a gotcha moment. They don't shut up when he starts talking. They interrupt him. And then when he's done answering the question, and this one woman said, the CNN woman said, well, I have a clarification and a question. And he said, no, you get one question. She goes, well, it's one question. I have a clarification, then a question. And he said, no. And so she started with the clarification, and then he cut her off on the question because he said one question, and she wouldn't shut up. Unbelievably rude, tremendous disrespect by the American media toward the American president on foreign soil in front of a world audience. Absolutely disgraceful on the shameless media. They have no shame. They hate you. They hate me. They hate America. Politics used to stop at water's edge. No more. These people full on hate America and will support anyone else around the world except for America, and especially except for this president. See, the difference between this presidency and the previous residency was the previous resident they loved, and he was in on it with them. He hated America. He hated you. He hated me. He hated America, and he went all around the world hating on America as the resident of the United States. And they thought that was just great. Kowtowing and bowing and scraping all around the world, apologizing for America. They're the blame America first crowd. Well, guess what? We've got an America first president now. And it doesn't go in quotes. He's America first. Period. End of sentence. New paragraph. They got it right. So Drudge got it wrong. Macron didn't tame the Donald. But you know who got it right? Stuart Varney at Fox News got it right. Trump dominated the G7 summit like no other president has done in years. Fox Business Network's Stuart Varney had a message for Americans after a deluge of criticism of President Trump's performance at the G7 meetings in France. No matter what you read and hear from the media, this G7 was all about Trump realigning the world, reshaping the world economy with America's interests first and foremost. And after President Trump's news conference at the conclusion of the summit on Monday, CNN's Jim Acosta said, I think perhaps one of the biggest headlines coming out of this press conference that we just witnessed here in France is that the president would not be pinned down on the question of climate change. Yeah, no, that was not the take-home message. The take-home message was, we got a new trade deal with Japan for agricultural products. We have made inroads thanks to President Macron. He invited the Iranians there, and there were negotiations there. But he kept Trump informed every step of the way. It was all done with President Trump's blessings. If President Trump had told him no, that would have been really funny to see, because poor Macron would have been wet in his pants. But no, the president wants... Look, the Persian people are great. They have suffered for 40 years under the Ayatollahs, and the president recognizes that. He said he's done business with people from Iran in New York. They're great people. They deserve better than the leadership that they have, but they cannot have a nuke. Period. End of story. That's the way it's going to be. And he said, I would rather not, but when I came in, there were 18 areas of confliction in the world. 18. The DOD sat me down and said, Mr. President, there are 18 areas of confliction in the world. He said, look, I'm handling things that, quite frankly, I shouldn't have to handle. Iran should have been handled, not just by President Satoru Bunel, but by President Bush and Clinton and second Bush. And I shouldn't have to be dealing with North Korea. But I do, and so I'm doing these things. Meanwhile, while Democrats hate you, hate me, and hate America, in Hong Kong, they unveil a banner, "Make Hong Kong Great Again." God love them. And I just posted, let's see if I can get it up on this one. I just posted a post from Gene Ho. Gene Ho says, gotta say this, Hong Kong was a British colony 20 years ago. Communist China, quote unquote, took back Hong Kong, but they promised one China, but two systems, one for China and one for democratic Hong Kong. They made this promise because they knew that if they didn't, people in Hong Kong would have left with all their money. That's why they're protesting. As a Chinese American, I stand with the Chinese in Hong Kong. And as a Chinese American, I stand with President Trump in our tariffs against China. Please don't let the mainstream media convince you otherwise. This needs to happen. Absolutely needs to happen. Absolutely, Gene Ho. The communists lied. Surprise, surprise. 20 years ago. They do not have two systems, and that's why the people in Hong Kong are protesting. And God bless these patriots here saying, "Make Hong Kong great again." Look, President Trump, if he's so hated around the world, how come so many other countries would love to have President Trump as their president? We have other countries, Canada, Sweden, we have people from all over saying, when you're done with him, can we borrow him? We would love to have President Trump. And I think it's an absolute disgrace that these Democrats hate him, that their TDS is so out of control. But that's the way it is. They also said, President Trump also said that, look, President Obama got outthought by President Putin. He did. He got outthought by President Putin. And he talked about the Crimea, and he talked about Obama's red line in the sand that once it was crossed, he didn't do anything. He said, that's not good. He said, I don't blame President Putin, and I don't blame Russia. That was President Obama's failure. And to get back at him, he got Russia kicked out of the G8. So Trump wants to get Russia back in the G8. It should be the G8. It's ridiculous to have an organization that discusses international trade, and it doesn't include one of the biggest players in international trade, Russia. And the president said, so many discussions, it would have been easier to have him in the room. If he'd been in the room, we could have taken care of it. But now things are in limbo. It's like, oh, I guess so-and-so is going to get back to him on this, and so-and-so is going to get back to him on that. Everything we talked about today. And, oh, if Russia were here, we could have taken care of this right now. But Russia wasn't there because of Obama. So yeah, President Trump is going to want to get Russia back in, not because he's beholden to Russia, not because he loves Putin, not because there's any Russia collusion, because Russia should never have been kicked out in the first place. It's an absolute disgrace that Obama got Russia kicked out, and shame on the other G7 nations for going along with President Satoru Bunel. That was an absolutely spiteful, small, petty fit of pique, and the other G7 nations should never have given into it. So I think the president would like to get Russia back, and he said, though, they asked if he was going to invite Russia to be a non-participant observer in Florida, and the president said, I don't know, I mean, I can invite him, but I don't think he's going to say yes. President Putin's a proud man, and to be invited to a meeting of an organization that you just got kicked out of, I think it's better that we let him back into the organization rather than just inviting him to come. That's kind of awkward. And the unstated assertion was, I sure as hell wouldn't go if I'd been kicked out of the organization and then they invited me back. I wouldn't do that to my country. So let's right now go live to the Kremlin and get a word from Vladimir Putin. Good evening, America. President Trump is exactly 100% correct. I am a proud man, and I am a proud Russian. Look at this beautiful St. Basil's Cathedral. We have architecture like no other place in the world has architecture. Russia is a proud country. We belong in the G8, and if President Trump can do that, I am with him 100%. Thank you very much. There you have it, directly from President Putin. Couldn't have said it any better myself. One other thing, I think that the president was talking about his friend Kim Jong-un, and he said that with North Korea, a lot's going on. North Korea is right there between China, between Russia, and between Japan, and between South Korea. And if you want to get there, unless you're going to fly, to get to South Korea from Russia or China, you want to go through North Korea. And he said, and I think the First Lady will support me on this, he said that North Korea is a nation of tremendous potential. And I thought it was beautiful the way he put that it was a nation of tremendous potential. And, he's talking about trains going through, etc. And Chairman Kim piped in and said, yes, because in train station, we want Chick-fil-A! Chick-fil-A in train station, yes we do! That would be wonderful, Chick-fil-A in train station. Now let's see what we can do. See if we can get somebody in from Pyongyang. I've heard that there is someone that would like to say hello to us tonight from Pyongyang. Let's get it straight from the horse's mouth. Yes, President Trump is so good for North Korea. He knows that we're good people, that I might not have been best guy, but I would like to be good guy. Because this is my country, I'm proud of it, and he is giving me the credit if I bring North Korea into 21st century. He won't hog all credit. He will give credit to me, and I can say to everyone, yay! Chick-fil-A! There we have it. Again, we've got it straight from the horse's mouth. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's all I've got for you tonight. That's our update. Until next time, keep fighting the good fight. God bless you. God bless these United States. Keep fighting the good fight.